Hello and welcome to the international lecture series Science Journalism in the Digital Age, well known as SciCon 2.0. My name is Christina Sartori and I will be hosting this session today. We have today three speakers, Johanna Rüdiger and Mattia Bütikofer and Gerben van Teek. And thanks for coming, for joining us and for, talking to us soon. For those of you who don't know SciCon 2.0, let me briefly explain. Like journalism in general, science journalism is facing enormous problems. Digitization has changed many ground rules and it has changed completely the system of financing. To be honest, it has repealed many old ways of financing and now everybody's looking for alternatives. We know good journalism, good science journalism that reaches many people is fundamental for democracy. In fact, we established that in several of our former sessions. If you missed one or several of those former sessions, don't worry. They are all available for you in our knowledge reservoir. You find the knowledge reservoir on the SciCon 2.0 website. Anyway, in our 10-part lecture series, SciCon 2.0, we present different topics that are relevant for the digital transformation of journalism, and we address practical ideas that can be developed and implemented for Germany. The series is organized by the German Science Journalist Association, WPK, and the Science Media Center Germany, SMC. Before we start, let's just check a few technical things. The session is planned for 45 minutes. We definitely have to stop at 1 o'clock. After each speech, there will be room for questions of understanding, just briefly. The actual discussion will take place after all three talks have been presented. You can raise your virtual hand or write in the chat, and I will present your question, whatever you like. The session will be recorded, remember the knowledge reservoir, and transcribed. So be aware that you might be filmed, and I hope you don't mind. Now let's see how to engage younger audiences, because they are important for us. Everybody keeps saying this. Younger people, we need them. But they use and consume media differently than generations before, because they know how to handle a mobile and all these things. The Reuters Institute at the University of Oxford published 2022 a report, and it said that these groups are increasingly hard to reach and may require different strategies to engage them. Each of our speakers will now present an example how to engage younger people. I'm old-fashioned. I will start with a lady. Ladies first, Johanna Rüdiger of Deutsche Welle. She developed and started Berlin Fresh. Berlin Fresh is the first TikTok channel started in 2020 by German public broadcaster Deutsche Welle. Johanna Rüdiger is head of social media strategy at Deutsche Welle Culture and Documentaries. She is news TikTok creator and digital storytelling expert. She has also her own channel at TikTok. Johanna will tell us more about those channels, but also in general about short videos. Please, Johanna, just go ahead.
Thank you so much. What a nice introduction. Yes, if we want to start the slides, Gabriel, Alina. Yes, so just move over to the next one, and then I will tell you briefly who I am. You already did that perfectly, but just to mention my video experience reaching young audiences. So yes, I did start Deutsche Welle's first TikTok account in 2020 called Berlin Fresh. At the time, hardly any media houses were on TikTok, so it was a bit of an adventure, and I really wanted to learn how to reach young audience on that platform. So that's why I started my own news account on TikTok and later Instagram. And I never thought it was going to grow this much. It was basically just to experiment and learn in the beginning. But now I have over 200,000 followers on TikTok, and basically pretty much I can compare it to the Deutsche Welle audience, except as Germany's international broadcaster, we are reaching people around the world, not in Germany, and my followers are also around the world and international, but many of them already live in Germany. They're international students, migrants, and refugees, because I do news updates in English about Germany. And I'm going to show from these two accounts a couple of examples and explain. So if we want to go over to the next slide, thank you. So what I'm talking about, you already mentioned it, Christina. We know that our young target audience that we want to reach consumes news in a different way, mainly through social media. So we know this as journalists, but many of us journalists are still trying to learn how to do that. And I always say the great thing for us journalists is that, yes, you do go viral on Gen Z platforms with what I call good old journalism. So basically all the stuff we already know how to do, well-researched topics, good storytelling, good video editing. But now we do have to update our skills to be successful on these platforms. We have to learn short-form video storytelling, TikTok storytelling, and we have to be a bit more constructive in our journalism. We have to show value in what the users is getting out of it. So if we want to go to the next slide. Why do I talk about TikTok all the time? So at Deutsche Welle, we now shoot TikTok first, but a TikTok is also an Instagram Reel, a Facebook Reel, and a YouTube Shorts, and works just as well on all these other platforms. The reason is, of course, because every social media platform right now is copying TikTok because it is so successful. And that means if you want to be successful as a journalist in social media, then you have to learn the TikTok storytelling, even if maybe you don't even have a TikTok account. And yes, if we want to go to the next slide, I'm going to show you what is so important about the short form video storytelling. And that's what I actually ask the target group, my young followers, because I do run often into them on the streets of Berlin. So ask them what they like about my videos and what's important in this video storytelling. So if we want to go to the next slide and start the video.
The way you explain the news, because it's very easy for me to understand, but most importantly, the way you explain it helps me understand how it affects my life.
Best, unbiased, quickest news source that I can ever imagine on TikTok.
I love your hooks that makes me stop scrolling and I know right away what I'm gonna get from the video.
I like watching Joanna's TikToks because although they are news, they are not boring. The way she's speaking it to us, it's in the TikTok lingo, so never boring and fun.
You're very relatable. You try to answer all of our questions and even make videos with us in the live streams.
It's really nice to have such a community here.
Yeah, if we want to go to the next slide and look at they already had a lot of important storytelling keywords in there. So of course we have to explain the news. It has to be simple to understand, and we have to show our users what it means for their daily lives. We have to be fast and impartial, but that's a given. We already do that on other platforms as journalists, but it also works on TikTok as well. And we have to have that hook, that first sentence that draws you in, what I call the thumb stopper moment, because you have to keep the people from scrolling in their feed and draw them in. And you have to show what the value for them is. What is the personal utility if they do stop scrolling and invest time in your video? And she also said fun. And whenever I speak in front of journalists, they say, Johanna, I do serious news and now you want me to be funny. How should I do this? But actually what we mean by fun is we produce engaging videos and use the TikTok language, which I will show an example of. And of course, we have to be relatable, and it's very much about community and community building. So not just about uploading videos. So if we want to go to the next slide, please. So yeah, I brought you an example for the TikTok language from our DW Berlin Fresh account. That's our Deutsche Welle account is a lifestyle account. So we are our target audience is young Americans, and we want to show them what's it like to be a young person in Berlin, in Germany, growing up. And if we go to the next slide, we can start the video.
I feel like a beer. Let me try out a Berlin Huh?
Excuse me, how old are you, young lady?
16.
What are you doing drinking beer?
I like drinking beer.
But what would your parents say?
Don't drink more than 3.
Oh my God, I'm calling the police.
You do know I'm allowed to drink beer, right?
Huh?
In Germany, the legal age for people to drink beer and wine is 16. And if you want to buy spirits, you need to be 18.
No way!
Actually, I might get a 4th. Do you want one?
Sure.
So that worked really well for us. I think 5 million views, because it's a very debatable topic for our target audience, and also They like watching information through skits. Of course, this is a lifestyle example, but you can also do it with serious topics and news. For instance, the Washington Post does most of their news through skits. And if we want to go to the next slide, I'll show you an example from my personal account. How I explain the news and what it actually means to have that hook, that first sentence, and break it down and show what it means for the lives of your users. And this is a video from last fall. In Germany, we had the energy crisis and lots of energy relief packages from the German government, quite complicated topics. And if we want to go to the next slide and show the video on it.
If you live in Germany, you don't have to pay your gas bill this month because the government will do it for you. Wait, what? In December, your gas installment payment will be paid. It's part of the relief package the German government decided on to help you with the high energy prices. It's supposed to tide you over until the gas price cap takes effect. But don't crank up the heat too much, thinking, you can go all out just because someone else is footing the bill. Because they're not paying the actual amount you used, it's calculated on the basis of past consumption. Enjoy your cozy December.
So it was quite a complicated topic with the gas price cap, gas price bremse. But actually, the only thing you really want to know is, can I turn up my heat and how much and who's paying for it? And then I do have that hook where I say, this month, Germany's government is paying your gas bill, and people are like, what? And want to know why. So, but if we want to go to the next slide, I also always say, don't underestimate your audience. Yes, we need to simplify and break it down, but I actually also go viral with and get millions of views with videos where I read from drafted laws and actually film hundreds of pages of drafted law, which sounds very boring, but it works. And I'm going to show you a little compilation where I cut a couple of videos together to give you an impression if we want to go to the next slide.
Germany promised to make big changes to its immigration system, and it looks like they're about to deliver. Yep. We have it in black and white, the drafted law. Let's look at the fine print and see what actually changes.
If this goes through, you won't have to give up your home country passport anymore because they want to make Mehrstaatlichkeit possible. And you'll get the German passport
passed. There was a lot of speculation about what some call a German green card. And now we know. I have it here in my hand, the draft law. It's 100 pages. So right now, let's just look at the pages I know you guys are the most interested in. That's what it says right here in the drafted law. If you qualify for the opportunity card, what some call the German green card, you don't have to speak any German, much less fluent, if you collect enough points in the rest of the categories. According to the draft law,
you have to have A2 level German language skills or good knowledge of English.
The important word here is or, meaning if your English is good enough, kein Deutsch.
And if we want to go to the next slide, the reason why this works, even though, I'm literally holding up draft laws in the camera, is because I do have that hook to draw you in. I show value, what you're going to learn from the video right away. And it's very relevant for my audience lives because most of the videos I make are response videos to comments. And so I don't tell them, all the 100 pages of the draft law, just the ones that are important for them. And I still try to use conversational languages, even though I'm reading from these laws. And the TikTok language, in the sense, I'm not funny, but fun, because I use different angles and perspectives. And that's why this works. And if we have time, I'm going to show you one last example from our DW Berlin Fresh account on the next slide. And that's a very serious topic. And just to show that, yes, very serious topics work on TikTok and the other platforms as well in short form video content. Because, of course, for us as Deutsche Welle, Germany's international broadcaster, explaining Holocaust and remembering Holocaust is a very, very important topic. We do it in many forms. We've done long documentaries, of course, But up until last summer, we had never done short form video explaining for this topic. And I really wanted to do it because we had many, young users asking about this topic. And so we actually partnered with the first former concentration camp on TikTok, Neuengamme in Hamburg, and went there and did a 7-part concentration camp explainer series. And I'm just going to show you quickly the most viral one of these videos. That was the most viral on our account ever. I think like 10 million on TikTok and then 12 million on YouTube Shorts and similar Instagram Reels and Facebook Reels. And if we want to go to the next slide, we can watch the video.
3 things you should never do at a former concentration camp. Number 1, don't forget where you are. In this concentration camp, thousands of people were killed. Don't worry about your outfit. We don't have a dress code, but do worry about your shoes.
The ground isn't meant to be easy to walk on here because stones like this one symbolize the pain and the suffering that the prisoners had to endure.
Don't judge how others behave. There was a family who took pictures of their toddler in the exhibition, which seems inappropriate, but this toddler's great-grandfather had been killed here. This was the way of the family to say, we're living despite the murder of our relative.
And the reason why that worked is because it's a very debatable topic, but we also we're sticking to the TikTok language in the sense we are not interviewing this young creator who's a volunteer at the memorial, but letting him speak directly to the camera so it's more authentic. And that's it from my presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Johanna. Thank you very much. That was very, very interesting. Several things to learn. I didn't see any questions right now. Remember, we will discuss later on. So I'd like to jump to directly to Matthias Bütikofer. He's head of social media at 20 Minuten, 20 minutes. 20 Minuten is a freely daily newspaper. It's published in print and online. Matthias Bütikofer will now present the social media first strategy. What does that mean? How does it work? Matthias, please.
Yes, hi everybody. Just the usual technical check. Do you all see the screen or the presentation? Yes. Perfect. So yeah, thank you very much for the invitation. I try to break the social media first strategy that we had for the past 1.5 years into like a 10-minute presentation. I hope it will be successful. As many other media outlets, despite that we are a free newspaper, we had the same challenges that probably every other media outlet faces at the moment. So we had to have a closer look into who's actually using our product. So what are the demographics? What are what is just the readers that we have? Because 20 Minuten always was like a young newspaper or a newspaper for the younger audience. But as the product 20 Minuten grew older, our audience grew a bit older. So we could see that that we were not able with our print and our online/app product, we were not able to reach a lot of the young audience anymore. And then we had 2 very important questions, which obviously is where's the young audience these days, which means what kind of platforms do they use? How could we get to them? How could we reach them? And obviously one of the fastest and most important answers is social media, because they're hanging on the social media platforms. And then there has been one question that we faced, which is the young audience actually reading, or in our case, so for social media, also watching news? And there are a lot of people say they're not reading the news. Some say they are reading the news. So there's no clear answer. So we said we have to try it, because social media is probably the only, let's say, mainstream or broad audience entry door that we have to the younger audience. So for us, it was quite easy to make a strategic decision that we want to go social media first. Why do I take as a success factor the strategy decision at the very beginning of the presentation? It's actually because we have seen that it's all fine in an organization when stuff starts bottom up. But if you decide it top down and say, okay, that's the way we go, it gives a very strong signal to our whole editorial office, to the whole organization. It gives them also orientation. And it is also an obligation for all the leadership people within the organization to actually push the topic social media to its possible limits. And also we wanted to avoid by making this decision for the whole organization, wanted to to avoid three very famous mistakes, which is we wanted to avoid a lack of commitment throughout the organization. Then we also made that strategy decision with the whole strategy to like not expect an immediate return on invest, because usually if you start on social media, you have to just build your community. You have to be consistent until you get like more reach, until you get more feedback. So you have to have like an expectation management. And also we wanted to encourage the people to experiment. So that's why we took the very top-down decision throughout the whole organization to go all in on social media. Now, social media sounds always a bit, young, digital, but what social media first actually was, it was like a lot of work on the process and the strategic and the administrative side of our organization. So it was not only about the content that we have to create, like content that Johanna showed a lot of good examples, but it's also how can we get to the point to create such content that will fit the platform A, platform B, or platform C. So that was our main question. And here I brought, it's only a model. It's a very simplified process on how a journalistic piece is created by us. So first we got the news opportunity, then we got the conception of the story, the editorial development of the story, then a slide platform channel adaptation, and then we publish it. So what we've seen also in our organization, but also throughout the whole media industry and probably every other industry, is that usually people start to think about social media and the social media channels when it comes to the platform and channel adaptation, which might work, but it will not really work because it's already too late, because videos have already been recorded, already been through post-production, texts have been written for way too long and stuff like that. So what basically social media first was not all about, but let's say like 75% about, was to find where in our editorial workflow is actually the optimal connection point to start thinking about social media channels, on also the storytelling, like how do we want to tell a story on social media. So I know this slide is not rocket science, but it's probably one of the mistakes that most of the companies do. If you start to think social media as an equal distribution channel, as an equal channel like print, app, online, even if you have radio, whatever you have, all the channels and platforms that you use, you need to think in an equal part about social media to get the right content that you can then adapt for a multi-platform storytelling. So this is a slide that shows us, or that probably illustrates the best what we actually want to reach. So we have one story that we think is good. Well, we have more than one story that we think is good, but it's just for the example here. And we want to film and to create the story in a way that we can use it for a lot of different distribution options. So this was a story that we were able to tell in different adaptations through TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, Facebook also in just a clickable post and a video post, YouTube, the app, and our website. And also it was the front page of the print outlet, and there was on the second or third page, there was like the whole article about it. So that's actually where we wanted to go, and that's why we try to implement the social media first mentality into our organization to actually be able to tell the good stories across all platforms that we want to be on, and that where we want to reach our audience. So to the success factors, how were we able to implement social media first, or a strong social media presence for our company? First, I want to start with the mentality. So it usually people forget about how important the mindset is. I know in every whatever coaching session and whatever video you watch about motivation or so, it's all about mindset and mentality. But it is actually the probably most important point, because if you tell the people that social media is our focus and they are able to experiment and to try to really make use of social platforms, it just gives so much power into the whole editorial office. When employees start to experiment and find their way through how could we tell something on social media, And also it's very important for the mindset and the mentality change within the organization, because if we want to go social media first, or probably Gerben, I hope you agree on that, if you want to go mobile first, you cannot like fire 200 people and then hire 200 like mobile first or social media people. You want and you will have to work with more or less all of your existing employees. So it's very important to change their mindset so that you can go in the right direction. And the second thing that we really focused on even before content creation and storytelling is also the know-how transfer. So there are two key points. One is always at every opportunity to talk about social media. If it's in a weekly editorial meeting that we have where we make a recap of the last week, always talking about social media. There have been extra meetings about social media, extra training sessions about social media. In the morning editorial meeting, it's always part of the discussion, the social media topic. So it gives it the real weight that it actually deserves to perform. And the second one about the know-how transfer is really important to make a difference between specific knowledge and, let's say, common knowledge. So everybody in the editorial office or throughout the whole organization, actually also our sales and commercial publishing needs to have that knowledge, is a common knowledge. Common knowledge is like an easygoing knowledge about social media. Which platforms do exist? How are they working? How does like a normal or a good post look on Instagram or Snapchat, on TikTok and all that? That's common knowledge that people need to know. And then you have specific knowledge that's about content creation, about performance, about how to post, about community management. That's the specific knowledge. Not everybody in the company needs to know it, but that's why you have a social media team or social media expert for. Because then everybody with the common knowledge can go to the team with the specific knowledge, and it's going to be an ongoing know-how transfer. And then the third part is a toolbox. Just give them all the tools and the guidelines they need and start working. And then we come to the content creation. Christina, how am I in the time?
That's all right. You Good. Still have 3 minutes.
Okay, yeah, I'll do my best to get there. So when it comes to content creation, I think Johanna already made a lot of very important points throughout her presentation. But also for us, it was a lot about experimenting. I think we published on our main TikTok account the past 1.5 years over 2,400 TikToks, and probably not all of these TikToks have been the best ones, but we had to try. We had to learn what works in the audience, what feedback do we get, how can we get better. So if you go into the content creation, we have several points that were really important. We really went into using in front of the camera peers, like people, content creator from 20 Minuten that have more or less the same age than our focus target group on TikTok. It's not super necessary, but it certainly can help to just to reduce the distance between the creator and the users a bit. And then also we started, because we know our content creators, they are experts, we just let them do. Sure, you had some guidelines, but just try and experiment all the time. And also really focus, we heard it about, you need to have a good hook. So today, everybody bashes the young audience because they say their attention span is shit. They cannot focus on anything for 10 minutes, more than 10 seconds, but watch the young audience binge watch Netflix series. It's like 10 hours in a row. They can actually focus for longer than 10 seconds. But my opinion is, and my theory is, but what's been reduced the last year is the so-called consideration span. Not the attention span, but the consideration span, which means how much time does a user spend to decide, do I watch Johanna's video or not? Probably like 20 years ago in the print, you had to read the title, then the lead, and then the text. So reading the title and the lead took you maybe 15 seconds. But it's also a consideration span. You try to build a hook with the title and the lead. Now in social media, you want to try the same, but you just got like 1 second, 1.5 seconds. So that's the most important point about content creating. Think about the consideration span. And also, when it comes to social media, probably that's my provocative thesis. I think the rules of content creation apply for all, no matter the industry. So it doesn't matter if you're in research or science or the news industry or even financial industry, which research, science, financial industry is way more complex than probably other industries. But the rules of content creation that you need to apply on social media, they just count for everybody. So For financial industry, if you want to have an example, Morning Brew from the US, breaking down all the financial topics in a really, really good way. And also, for the other, on the other hand, if you create content
now
on social,
it's your last minute.
Okay, that's good. If you create content on social media, always go to the comment section and try to provoke some feedback, because social media is not a channel; it's a platform where people meet, where they are discussing. So try to provoke some feedback, and they will give you feedback. Did they understand everything, or do they have questions, or is there another topic that you can think about? They will always give you a feedback. And then I just skip to that slide. And if you start building on social media, don't stop after building. Then go into the next phase of your strategy, which is bind your community binding, community involvement, talk to them, create a relationship, even if it's virtual, obviously on social media, to your audience, and involve them, because that's what people need on social media. Third part, conversion. Obviously, we don't want to rely too much on third-party infrastructure when it comes to social media platforms. So in another phase, we try to bring the community that we gained on social media to our own platforms, which is website, print, and app. It would be the best if they obviously see us on social media, follow us, consume us on social media, and in the end, have our app on their phones. So that's a 10-minute breakdown of the social media strategy from 20 Minuten.
Thank you very much, Mattia. I do have one brief question by Holger. Should we do this quickly now, right? You want to?
Okay, Mattia, do I get you right that you don't play out your content on X, on Twitter? Is that a deliberate strategic choice?
It's 50-50. You got it right that I didn't have it in the presentation, but you got it wrong that actually we do have it on Twitter or X. Yeah. So but we don't adapt it for Twitter. That's why I didn't put it into the slide. But yeah.
All right.
Okay.
We are still using it. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for clearing that up. And now, last but not least, let's listen to Gerben van Teek of Mediahuis. Gerben van Teek is editor-in-chief and project manager at Mediahuis. That's a European media group that changed in recent years its strategy by concentrating on gaining new digital subscriptions. And that worked, assumingly. Gerben van Teek is now pushing for another change. He will now talk about this new approach, and it's called, well, what are you explaining? Mobile phone first. Gerben, if you would like to start.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation, and thank you already for the inspiration I already got from the speakers before. Share my screen. You quickly see yourself, I assume, and then from again. Okay, do you see my screen? This is not a crooked presentation or a failed attempt to make a PowerPoint. It's on purpose like this because we're talking about mobile first, and this is the view we present our subscribers, our readers. They are watching our content on a mobile phone mostly. So let's talk about going portrait and reaching a younger audience. And the main question is why we have to change and why we have to do it now. First, who are we? I'm responsible for 5 regional brands in the northern part of the Netherlands. We are part of Mediahuis, mainly around Amsterdam. All brands, we are the oldest newspaper in the Netherlands, and they say even in the world. Haarlems Dagblad on the top is from 1656. And our attempt is to live through this disruptive time and give Haarlems Dagblad and the other brands a future and not only a past. Because we have some big challenges. This is our CEO, and he made this statement in the national media. The end of the printed newspaper era is closer than we thought, so we have to change. We have to do it quickly. We did a lot over the last couple of years. We transformed our newsrooms fully into a digital-focused creating newsroom. So, and we did it quite successfully, not as big as the success we want, but we are growing brands. We are gaining more and more subscribers. We're losing, of course, the print subscribers. We're getting more digital subscribers. Nothing new. The average age of the print subscribers are rising, so we have to get some younger readers. This is an interesting figure. It's almost 70% of the new subscribers you get do not want a paper subscription. They only want a digital subscription. So we have to get a relentless focus on digital. Now, how do we do that? How do we get a digital audience? And of course, also a younger audience. First question, and I think it's a question publishers often skip to ask themselves, what's young? Do we need a young audience or a younger audience? And that's the difference, because now the average age of our subscribers, even on digital, now is around between 55 and 65. And it's, yeah, it would be too optimistic to think with the content we are creating for this audience, we can also reach and connect the Gen Z or the millennial generation. The gap's too big, so we had some very big discussions about this. Okay, we have to get not a one-way strategy. Of course, we want to reach the Gen Z and the millennial generation, but for our brands, we also have a strategy on reaching younger audience, and then we are talking 35 to 55. So we have a strategy on the youngest generation and the younger generation. The good news, the Gen Z and the millennial, we already heard it, they love news. That's, we know it. It's not that they are not interested in the world. They are very interested in the world, but they search the news on TikTok. NRC is one of our biggest newspapers in the Netherlands. We did a survey on the young people, and they think it's a podcast company. They're very good at podcasts. And the Telegraaf, this is the biggest newspaper in the Netherlands. My daughter thinks it's a YouTube channel. They're very big on YouTube. So we can reach this these generations, but we have to be flexible on the platforms and flexible in the way we tell our stories. And we are thinking, and I think we will do it, of creating a new brand, especially for these audiences. And being flexible also means, okay, we used to be put a lot of effort in putting our stories on Facebook, of course, but Facebook is the platform of the generation of me and my mother. Instagram is for the generation of my younger brother. And my children think even Instagram is for old people. So every generation has its own platform, and we have to be flexible and be present where our audience is. Reaching a younger audience, so the 35 to 55 people in this age category, we are really deep diving into the data. We are listening to what the audience is reading. We are looking at what they click, what topics do they want to read, what form of do they like, what prose do they like. And one example, I can talk about only about this topic for hours and hours. One simple example, we used to neglect stories about new shops in our cities. Okay, new shops, not very boring. Another hairdresser, another restaurant. It's not our cup of tea. And from the data we saw, if we write about local shops, it's highly appreciated. So now we write a lot about new shops and new businesses. We write a lot about housing. We write a lot about crime and safety. We also write a lot about politics, local politics, but we do it completely different than we did a couple of years ago. We learned, okay, we should do analysis, we should write stories. Okay, this political decision influences my life, and these are the consequences, and not the political debate. We skip that. So we really listen to the data, and we are succeeding in it. Our new subscribers on some topics are the average age of the new subscribers on, as for instance, housing or local shops is around 40. We get, this is the average. We even get subscribers 25 to 30 years old. So we are succeeding in reaching younger audiences. And an important part of this journey we are in the middle of is that we are now completely focusing on creating everything for mobile, because 90% of what we are creating is read on a mobile phone. And another interesting figure, and I think it will be the same at your brands, 69% never sees the homepage. They're coming via social, they're coming via a link, via WhatsApp. They don't ever see the homepage. So they do read our stories, but they don't see our homepage. And what we did, we were focusing on desktop and focusing on the homepage. All our processes, our internal processes, were focused on desktop, and our audience is consuming our stories via a mobile phone. So, and if you focus on desktop, then you end up with skyscrapers of plain text. You end up with unreadable graphics made for desktop and not even for print. So this is a nice graphic, but it's not fit for a mobile phone. And it's very easy to change. For it's an example. It's very easy to say to your graphic department, say, okay, now I only want you to make my graphics for mobile. So first make a graphic for mobile, and then we see if we have to adjust it for print or not. And it's a small example, but it's one of the many things we changed. We reorganized the entire workflow. Mobile thinking is now on the number one in every step we take. We have a mobile preview built in our CMS. We are desking the mobile side. We're working on different storytelling. We work with a lot of mobile enrichment tools, a portrait workflow. We're creating a mobile embrace program for our editors, training, experimenting. And we will introduce new sites and apps. And I can talk a lot about that too, but we got some inspiration for that from IKEA. And you all know IKEA, and IKEA is very good in one aspect, and that's when you enter IKEA, they keep you in their store. Stay and continue shopping. And our problem is that we are succeeding in attracting audience. So we are they're reading our stories via social, but they just read one story and they leave. And we try to, and where IKEA is great about this, is getting their audience addicted. This is a real heat map of IKEA store. So you see the entrance, the people walk, you cannot escape the store, you have to walk everywhere. You're buying all things you didn't know you want to buy them. And at exit, you also buy a hot dog and then you go happily home. And what do we do in our case, and almost every news brand in the world does it, after the last sentence, we're not presenting you another story. No, we do some horrible things. We present you ads, we present you share buttons, we present you text. Nobody clicks on it. Instead of we presenting you a new story. And that's, of course, the addiction. TikTok and every other social media is very good about it. After the last sentence, the flow, don't stop the flow, just present a new story. So we are going to be to implement some TikToking and social media addiction into our products, and hope we'll every visit our readers will end up with a full bag of nice articles. Still looking for a variation of the hot dog at the end. Anyone has a great idea, please contact me. But the main message is we got to get the focus of the creators on the platform and on the mobile phone, and that's what we are in the middle of. I hope it was an inspiration in a couple of minutes. Was I in time?
Yes, you were. Yes, thank you.
Okay,
thank you
I'm Gerrit Hek. If you want to reach me via Twitter or X or via the chat, I will share my contacts in the chat. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Very, very interesting. And so easy to understand if you once have been at IKEA. One follow-up question from me is if you have just after the first story, write directly the next story. Everybody was saying that it's important to build a community, to give your readers a chance to contact you, to give their side of you. So where do you do this, or don't you need this? Don't you?
We do it higher in the text.
Okay.
So we use some tools for that. But we know from the data, if we do it under the last sentence, then most of the people already leave the story. So we try to have this interaction with the audience higher in the text.
Okay, thank you.
Higher in the story or in the photo, or there are a couple of things we can do.
I really like that you all three did talk about young people as people who are interested in news and who can be interested in stories that are, if they are presented in the right way, if you have the hook and all this and the right speed, the TikTok language or whatever. Do you think there are topics, and remember, we are all science journalists listening to you, are there topics where you would say, well, the really young people, not the one above, let's say 40, this topic just doesn't work. They are not interested at all. Or do you think it's just the way it's presented that makes the story interesting?
Yeah, I think, or sorry, Johanna, did you want to go first?
I think that's not different from other platforms. I mean, I remember when I was reading the printed newspaper back in the day, you'd have the different books, how we say in German, and I would take the sports pages and put them away right away and never look at them, and nothing in the world would have made me look at them. And I think it's the same now. You really have to know your target audience, but if in that target audience, and I think you're asking for science journalists, I think as a science journalist, you would do wonderful on TikTok and on these platforms, because there's such a hunger. I think the other guys mentioned it for news and for information and for having things explained. And we especially see it on TikTok. The more, I mean, I've never in my life as a journalist been asked for, oh, where can I get the link for the draft law of the 100 pages of the reform of the citizenship? I mean, people really want to know stuff and dive into the facts, and young people. And so I think it's an excellent time for a science journalist to be on these platforms, actually.
Good to hear.
Can
I would oh, sorry.
Oh, can I add a quick add something to that? We're looking very close to our data and explaining science to our regional orientated audience is working really well, especially for the younger part of our audience. So to add something optimistic.
Thank you, Matthias.
Yeah, I just want to agree on that. It's usually there might be one or two topics, I cannot name them, that might not really might work really well on the platform, but most of them it is actually on how you tell it. So if you have a science article and it's like 10,000 characters long and you just try to read it on TikTok, it's probably not going to work. But if you see it as the entry door to just bring your topic to an audience, and we usually call it, when we write a script for a video, it's called kill your darlings. So every word and every sentence that's not super necessary needs to go out of the script, and then you have like a 30, 40, 50 second script, and then you start. Obviously, a lot of journalists then tell, yeah, but it's not all the story and not all the aspects. For sure, it's not, but it's the entry door. It's the entrance to the IKEA, probably. So you have to start somewhere first. So I think it might work for more or less every topic.
So I guess in a way that's even harder than if you can write a long text about your topic, but if you have to really shorten it and you have this legendary hook, it makes it really hard. We do have several questions here in the chat room. I will read it to you. The one is at all speakers, all of three of you, which are the emerging new social media we journalists should absolutely, definitely dive in?
It's always the same answer depending on your target group. Do you want to sell something? You want to reach what are the demographics of your audience? And for example, if you wanna have like a demographic audience that's around 35 to 55 and needs a place where they can jump off the platform pretty easily, and they need to subscribe somewhere, you have platforms like Facebook that have excellent opportunities for that. But if you say no, it's going to be to the youngest audience, probably you have to think about TikTok or Snapchat or yeah.
But
so it's really dependent, yeah.
I think the most important thing for us journalists is not to focus so much on the specific apps, but on the kind of journalism and kind of storytelling. Because, you know, with TikTok, we have a lot of talk about, oh, should we even be on this app, Chinese owned, and is it going to be illegal and forbidden in the US or anywhere else? And that's why I think the main thing is you should never get too dependent on one specific app. And we don't, like at Deutsche Welle, we have this great example that, you know, in India, TikTok is already not allowed, but then we have other apps, and this one app called Josh, where now we are going viral and getting millions and millions of views of our content, and it's basically a TikTok clone. So I think for us journalists, it's important to, you know, see the trends, see how our audience wants to be reached with our news and what kind of storytelling. So the short form storytelling isn't going away, even, you know, if TikTok is not allowed anymore, or there will be some other app. So I think it's not so much is the app called Snapchat or TikTok or what is the name, but what kind of journalism do people want right now?
Okay, another one which follows is away from click numbers. How do you measure that the journalistic offerings on the featured social media channels are working? Do you know, for example, whether the short posts lead to longer offers being used? Or just for
that's like 4 questions in one.
Yeah. Okay. How do you know that something works?
Well, it's not only the view number, of course. Yeah, if you go to TikTok, probably when a video shows, it's already an impression or a view, so you cannot really go from that. But you have other indicators that are like how many percent of people who saw your video finished the video, or what was the total play time, or what was the average watch time in seconds. So if you know it's a 30-second video and 25 seconds is the average view time, that's way more interesting than if you've reached 1,000 or 2,000 viewers in the end, because you want them to stick to it and have the longest possible brand or creative confrontation that you can create. So I think that's way more important. But I cannot really answer you if they lead to longer offers, because we usually try then to use it as the entry door and then bring them somewhere to our product. So it's not a line that you can measure 100% properly.
To which product do you want to lead them to? Another story on the same platform?
No, to our website if they want to have the long form or more information about it.
We do know, for instance, for our regional brands, that Facebook is really well working, of course, because we are aiming for the 55 new audience, and we know we have the Facebook, the bubbles Facebook is creating are really connecting to the content we are making, because we're writing about cities, and so the Facebook bubbles are closely like the bubbles our own bubbles. So, and we know our audience, and that's different than we thought it was, but our audience clicks from Facebook are very well converting to subscriptions. So from Facebook, I only need 7,000-8,000 clicks for selling one subscription. And now, for example, from Google, I need 40,000. So from Google News, so you can know a lot about this journey from a social platform towards a subscription, and media time or attention time is the best is the best thermometer of success in our case, because of course we want to make things people like to read and not and stay away from clickbaiting. So it's easy to get a lot of clicks, but you want to I don't want to click. I want people to read the stories or to watch the video. Or
Johanna, you mentioned that sometimes people speak to you directly on the street.
Yeah, and so that's of course amazing for me, because our Deutsche Welle audiences around the world, so we don't get to talk to them in person, but I do, and I use every opportunity to ask them, okay, what do you want, what do you watch, what do you like? And then I often when I meet them, I make videos about it, so other people know I'm approachable and I'm a real person, and yes, you can ask me questions. And I did see there was a question from Nina Kunze asking, how do you deal with videos that did not perform well? Do you take learnings from them? And that's actually one of my pet peeves, that if we are not successful, we have to look at the why. And especially on TikTok, the content is the algorithm is content-based, not status-based. So you actually do get videos where like 1 million views one day and the next you get 10,000 views. So it very much depends on how good your content is. It doesn't matter how many followers you have. And so we actually do look very hard at these videos. And if I don't believe in the saying, oh, you never know what goes viral or not. When you're being honest and you're looking at it directly, most of the time we know why something didn't perform well. And if it's not the topic, then most likely it's that, in the beginning, people didn't really understand what we were trying to tell them in the first couple of seconds. And so they kept scrolling. So we try to learn that from that at Deutsche Welle. And me, my personal channel, I do it in my free time. So I'm on the weekends and in the evenings. So yeah, you better believe if people are not watching something, I'm not doing it again. So yeah, so the only time I allow myself to not get as many views is if I'm doing something for community building, like if I'm meeting followers and then I make a video about it, then I know that's something that won't go viral and won't get like a lot of views, but the people, that matter in the community will see it. And then, that's when I allow myself to not maybe reach as many people as possible. But otherwise, yeah, I think that's like one of the most important things, that you go back and you're like, okay, let's be honest. Why did this video not perform?
Being honest. There's a question at Gerben. What strategy does Mediahus follow to make profit with social distribution of your content?
Sorry, can I forgot to sorry, just to follow up on that. I think, also as a media company, we have to focus on the performance, but also there are videos or topics that are just super relevant that we know it's way more complex to bring them to high numbers on a platform, just because of the nature of the topic probably, or because sometimes you have that feeling, but we still continue doing that. So if you only want to go because we're doing all the news, not just one specific area, we have to bring what's super relevant. And if they only gain 10,000 views instead of a million, 2 million, whatever, it's for us important when you see it on the profile for a story mix that we did it, and never take down videos that didn't work, because just, take the pride and continue posting.
Okay, good addition. Yeah. Good.
The question was, what
strategy does Mediahus follow to make profit? That's an important word here, with social distribution of your content.
We don't have one strategy, for instance, because we do have put a lot of effort with our mostly the other brands on TikTok and experimenting on YouTube, and that's a main part of that is branding for the future. We want to get people to know our brands and lay a fundament for the future. And on the other platforms, we know it's profitable. Our Facebook strategy over the last years was very successful. We know what we have to post on Facebook to get audience on our platforms, and then we get the conversions to subscriptions. We know what I told you. We only need 7,000 clicks from Facebook to sell a subscription. And on our own platform, it's almost the same. So we are as successful on Facebook with our content in the way we're talking about subscription as we are on our own platform. So in Google News, completely different ballgame. Then we need a lot more clicks, because cannot Facebook allows us to get our content to the right people. So we are not trying to become the biggest on Facebook or the biggest on social media. We try to get the right people on.
Okay. Thank you. The thing is, our time is up. I'm so sorry, because I have 2 more cards full of questions, but thank you very much. It was very, very interesting. Thank you, Gerben van Heek, Johanna Rüdiger, and Mattia Bütikova. It was really, really interesting. Thank you also to everybody organizing and planning this session, and for the technical support by Congressa. One more thing to know for you: the next CSICon 2.0 session will take place on the 25th of September. The topic is small country, big press funding in Luxembourg. And there will be another session where the topic is journalism for democratic society, how innovative media create new quality. It's a study, and we will the results will be presented. At the end, it will all end at an international conference in Berlin in November, the whole CSICon series, the 2 lecture series. And there we will formulate recommendations based on both lecture series. This was one of it, and it was really insightful. Thank you very much for everybody for the questions, and have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, bye.